up, guys? Bones88 here, and I am here with my best friend, my brother. You know who it is, XMG. We're going to do a little top 10 best characters in the game. Zeri, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me on, bud. It's been way too long.
It has, man, it has, and it's always a good time. Like always, we'll
Yes,
try
it
to keep
is.
it short, but we like to talk whenever we're together. So, the way we
Yeah,
did
it's
it,
never gonna happen.
we both came up with a top 10 list. We came together and gave us each other the top 10, and then we made an ultimate top 10 list together. Everything was pretty much included: leaderships, kits, whatever. We've taken it all into consideration, and it.
Yeah, we did good. We did good. I was pretty shocked how close we were. So
Me too. Me too. All right, so number 10, we have Keb and Bob. Um, he is one of my favorite characters. He hasn't been in here long, but I use him as much as I can. He seems to help me the most in tournaments. I try to use him in just weird, crazy plug and play scenarios and battlegrounds. But whether he's the right match or not in a team, he's just a lot of fun to play by himself. He brings a lot to the table, and I just love this guy. Zeri, what do you think about him?
I'd love him too. Like you said, he's so plug and play viable. Like people might be shocked he's this high, but he is so good. The only real problem I got with him is just he's really squishy. So you got to make sure you have a defender with him. But you can put him under the lake lead with Ember because he just distributes all the burns all over the place. He's just such a fun, like you said, he's so fun to play, and he's just really good. His damage output is pretty dang solid because he gains the burn or he gains damage based on the burns
Yeah.
for each stack of burning. I mean, he can just do some tremendous damage, and he's so plug and play viable.
And you can also.
Him and Centurion are my two favorites, and I don't know which one I like more.
I agree, man. I love Scent. He's pretty. He's fun to play too, man. He gets all those buffs. Um,
Yeah.
but also you can gain shield back up too whenever you're playing with Kevin Bob. Like if you don't want to save him and he's about to die, you hit that third ability again and he gets shield. So he can give himself
hmm
health or health shield, whatever. So yeah, I really like
Yeah.
him.
Yeah,
Anything?
he's extremely solid. And then the fact that he can give himself potency when he
Yep.
doesn't have the oink
Yep.
is just you can ruin him so many different ways. There's a lot of different options. So if you don't have the best runes in the world, you can make it work. He's really good.
And I like the oink and no oink system. It's because it adds a lot of complexity to the kit, and I can't say so much for the dwarves. I don't really like the charge thing though.
Well, it's really hard, I think, with the dwarves to see the full impact of it because a lot of it's based on Boldair, and he's not in the game. We can't even play test him. So
Yep.
until we see how that goes in, because a lot of it's the charge mechanic gives Boldair stuff. So until then, I'm kind of holding reservation on it. But yeah, I prefer the oink system over the charge as well.
I agree. Anything else you want to say about him?
If you don't have him, farm him because he's fun.
I agree. And like I said, you can use him outside of half pigs, and I want to talk to you sometime about like a cool burn team with him. So I've been trying to think of something cool with maybe him and Amara and some other things. So
Yeah, I've been playing around with the burn team. It has Lake and Ember, Amara, Thanisa, and him. If you go up against heavy damage dealers, it's hard to keep running, but man, you can do some damage.
yeah, I bet, man. This guy alone does some
Yeah.
damage, so he's a lot of fun. All right, so that's number 10, Kevin Bob. All right, so number 9, Wukong. I have all kinds of things to say about this guy. He looks awesome. One of my favorite looking characters in the game. One of the most exciting I've been whenever a character came out about him. He has a cool AoE. He has cool duplicates. That system that varies on how many Prime members you have. Just all kinds of stuff. He has a daze on his basic, and his duplicates can daze on their basics, and they get some. Depending on what team you're going against, that can really hurt you right there. And I think he get counterattacks, doesn't he, Zeri?
When he has duplicates summoned, they can counterattack, right? Is that how it
I
works?
think so. I think so.
I love him. I think he's a great character. He was a good addition to the Pride. He's what they needed, especially if you're not running him with a Salvador team. He can really make that longevity last. The only real problem why he's not higher for me is he's very gear dependent. You got to get him high up. Like you got to get him to at least 11 before he comes usable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And he really shines with T7s on him.
Yep.
Like if we didn't have the test server, I don't know if I'd rank him as high as I do. I mean, he's still a great character, probably be top 25 for me. But he, when you start putting those T7s on him, he becomes a completely different champion, in my opinion. He's
And
so much more viable.
yeah, and
So,
him with sevens, and I only run him with the Salvador team because I just don't have much of anything else. I'm sure there's
mhm.
lots of other good theory crafting teams out there that you can put him on, but that's just what I do. And like I just told you, I had like 11 defenses on Battlegrounds, last Battlegrounds,
Yeah, that's crazy.
you know,
That's crazy.
and I think he's the big point of it. See, I don't put Kagi on there. I take Kagi out and I put Wukong in, and I've noticed I get more stops with Wukong than I do Kagi. But don't get me wrong, you can't go wrong with having Kagi in there because him and the Boreas synergy. But like you said, put those sevens on there, and he's crazy. And I don't see that defense very often. I don't go against the Wukong Pride often, but that's probably my most
Well,
stout team I have on Battlegrounds that gets the most consecutive defenses for sure.
yeah, and I think to your credit, and from watching your Battlegrounds, he doesn't need the stars. Like I think people held off on him because they only have him like 3 or 4 star.
Yep.
He's still viable at 3 or 4 star at gear 11. It's the gear on him that makes all the difference. So if you got him at like, level, 3 star, 4 star, gear him because that's what makes all the difference. A lot of times in these games, it's levels that make the difference, and it's
Yeah.
it's gear.
I have noticed
And
that. I have noticed that. I completely agree. Because a lot of these battle pass characters, you don't need to have 7 star or even 6 star.
no,
You get most of them to about 5 star, and you have to gear them to at least 11. But they'll be usable in battlegrounds. There may not be things that they can do as far as a legendary event or something because they're not 7 star. But if you can use them, take them to gear 11. I mean, that's something I gotta say. Like only Strike Force reminds me of that, where you could have a 3 star character, but if you take him to gear 13, you're going to be able to use him in your your wars, in your battlegrounds, in your grand arena. You know what I'm
hmm
saying? Like the Alliance War and Strike Force. So
the other cool thing is if you want to go pride, you don't need 7 stars to put on T7. All you need is like the levels. So if you got him up to whatever level it takes to put on that T7, especially on his third ability, that monkey business,
yeah,
that's the pivotal one. Put it on there, and you can have a 4 star that people are going to struggle with.
I
No,
agree.
he's good. I just wish his damage was just a little bit higher. I mean, it goes through the roof, like gear 12, gear 13.
Yeah,
Gear 11, his damage isn't the greatest. It's mostly the days that screws people up.
yep,
But when you start investing in him and just building him up higher and higher, he reaps the benefits of gear 12, gear 13. I mean, gear 13, he's over 4,000 damage. So,
yeah. And that AOE hits pretty hard. I mean, it's not the hardest thing, but for
oh
an
yeah,
AOE, it hits pretty hard, and it's an attack down, right?
I think so. Damage decrease,
Damage
yeah.
decrease. Yep,
And then,
and it
yep, and then
restores turn
it
meters to your
feeds.
duplicates too. So
Yep, yeah, feeding that turn meter to his duplicates is huge. And then I love the fact that he can't die if a duplicate's on the field, so
yes,
you don't got to
that's
worry about
huge.
his health
Yep.
and stuff, especially at the lower levels. That's where you'll see it. Is the lower star count is where his health might not be as high as you want it to be, but as long as you can keep up a duplicate, you're fine.
And he stays invisible a lot too, and so very rarely is he not the last one dead. If like I lose a BG or something, and I have to start over before I die, he's always probably the last one alive. Him and
hmm
Salvador are going to be the one of the last two to die. So,
Yep, and if he's he's one of the only mass dispellers in the game on himself. I mean, he doesn't do it team wide, but that can't be understated. That if some people try to block him out with more doom at the start of his turn, he's wiping them all. If
yep,
you have that T7 on,
right, yep.
so I mean, he really is. His kit is fantastic, and he's just a really good champ.
And he's one of the first people I put sevens on. I think him and Salvador. So still recommend putting at least all sevens on his
Yeah,
abilities. Maybe not as basic. I'm always skeptical about putting anything on anyone's basics, but everything else I would put sevens on for sure. So
yeah. I mean, yeah, his basic is probably you can wait on that, but I mean everything else is you're getting well worth the T7.
And sevens
Yeah,
to me are
him,
more important than a Gear 13 at right now. You know what I'm saying? Just because they can,
yeah,
for some people, for ones that really add a lot to their kit, it's almost more valuable than taking someone to Gear 12 or something.
yeah, and he reaps the benefits of having those T7s big time.
Now, take this guy to 12 and
For sure.
13, he might be one of the best characters in the game because he'd be putting that much
Oh,
more attack
he
damage
is
up, you know?
health and shield combination unruined at gear 13. He's 82,000 health and
Wow.
shield combo.
And so,
Yep. His
how is it determined for his duplicates? Is it health percentage of
Yeah,
his?
his duplicate I believe is yep, he get Wukong's summons one duplicate with 50% of his health and 60% of his damage.
Wow.
So
So think how much more
50% of his
beefier
health,
that'd be.
he's at 45.6 unruined. He's going to summon someone at 23. That's like a gear 11 character. And then 60% of his damage is at 40 or 4,000. Just a little bit above 4,000. So you're looking at 2,200 damage. Again, it's lower end gear 11 character.
Wow.
So pretty much you're summoning 2 or 3 gear 11 characters depending on what team comp you got him with.
Well, I've decided he's my first 13 if I could ever get there. I'm working on 12 right now, so. All right, y'all. Number 9, Wukong. Number 8, Eric Shieldbreaker. This guy is crazy.
Gear
I mean,
shield breaker.
he's not the craziest, I guess. I shouldn't say he's crazy, but he will make any team comp you put in there a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen him put with Pride before, which I had never seen before, and I was like, oh, well, I got this. No, I mean, just because
Mm-hmm.
he makes a team better, never worse, and it's because of one move. And what move is that, Zeri?
That is his rousing cry.
Yes, sir.
Rousing cry, man. That is the only reason he's in the top 10. I mean, his damage is fairly good. We were talking about it. It's because this game lacks dispellers so badly that this move is so crucial to any team comp you want to put him in. If they make more like a mass dispellers, then he'll drop down the list because his damage, he can do some damage. Don't get me wrong, but it's nothing crazy.
Yeah.
But it's simply for that rousing cry, and he's slower than molasses.
Yep.
So you usually just get that off, and then people take him out, and you're like, well, I just made it one round without getting debuffs, so have fun.
And he's one of the few people who can really truly counter Garrett, which is ironic because you want to pair him with Garrett. If you don't want to use a Soleus mirror to take on a Garrett shield breaker, or you want to put someone else in and not use Garrett, well, as long as you have Eric Shieldbreaker in there, this move counters that mass blind. So you can almost put this with any comp to counter Garrett. You know, I'm not saying he's. I'm sure there's a lot of comps you could put him with that's still not going to matter, but he's still like the main counter to Garrett, and that's huge too because Garrett's one of the best characters in the game, and that blind is just when that blind happens, you can. What do you think the percentage is? Probably about 80% of the time, if you get hit with that blind, you're probably going to lose the match.
It depends. If you have a Garrett as well, sometimes I'll wait until they use their blind first, and then I'll use my blind second.
Yes,
because then they think they can unload all their special abilities because they've been saving it for the blind. And then, but if you don't have Garrett with him, yeah, you're done.
Yes, exactly. So that's about all we have to say about that, right? I mean, it's just that one move. I will say that I have one-shotted fools though with him. Sometimes he can hit pretty hard. I've even took Titania down to almost red health from being full health with shield. So he can hit hard. So I mean, that's not the only
that
thing.
Colossus strike, yeah.
So he does do damage.
It's his second ability. Yeah, that second ability can do damage. I mean, especially if you can get the buffs on, especially if you can get like a crit chance increase, because his stats, he's really hard to build. He is, because you want him to do damage, you want him to go faster, You know, so he can get that rousing cry up quick. He isn't the healthiest, beefiest character, so you want him to survive a little bit, but then you want to get that crit chance way up. You want to get that crit damage up as much as you can. He's a tricky character to build, and if it wasn't for that one move, I don't know where he'd be on my list.
I don't know either. It'd be interesting to see. But like you said, eventually he'll probably go down the list once you get people who can dispel more than 2 buffs at a time.
Exactly. And that's the big caveat. But for right now, he's just so devastating. I mean, anybody who's dependent on those debuffs, like a buff team, if he gets rousing cry off before he gets his dice throw, buff's pretty
Oh,
much neutralized.
yeah, I did that about
You
8
know,
times
I mean,
today. Yeah, yeah, that's a pain,
yeah,
man. It's just such a
yeah.
pain.
So it's tough. I mean, like I said, he's a tough character to build. Like you could build him so many ways, and I could say, yeah, that's the way to build him. You know,
So yeah, man, that's Eric Shieldbreaker. Super plug and
yeah,
play.
that's him.
There he is in
Yes,
all his glory.
yeah. Rousing cry, shield breaker.
The lion heart. He's got this
That's right.
little thing in the middle there,
I do want his mustache though.
dude. Who wouldn't? I've always dreamed of having a mustache like that.
Handlebars.
Have you seen the double mustache trend now? Like you have a mustache and then you make your beard that looks just like the mustache underneath it.
What? No, I've not seen that.
I guess it's a real trend. You know, like hipsters be doing weird shit like that. I guess it's real. It's interesting. I never would have thought about that. But now that I've seen it, I can't get it out of my mind. Alright, so number 7, we have another human. The OG, the Grandmaster, Soleus.
Soleus he's just built so well. Like everything about him, he does decent damage. He has 2 heals with a cheat death. His leadership is great with the counter chance for the humans, and then it's got every other faction, so he can plug and play with anybody. He's built so well that it's like he slides up and down the list all the time. But think about a character. If you don't have somebody to run in your tournament, you look to Soleus. Everybody does. You're like, oh well, I got Soleus, I'll throw him in there. You know,
Yep.
he's just so good. You know, I just for the first legendary in the game. I mean, he's still holding the test of time. A year and a half later,
And to this
so
day, he's
he,
my kryptonite in Battlegrounds. Still to this day, can't find a hard counter, and I'll spend 6, 7, 8 tries every Battlegrounds trying to take him down because
yeah,
he's just
and people,
a hard guy to counter.
yeah, and a lot of people are like, well, it's the people who you put him with. Well, is it? Like that's what I always tell him. I'm like, well, is it? Because if you can't get by the tank and he's just continuously healing everybody up repeatedly. And then you think you finally got somebody dead, and he pops the cheat death, and you're like, "You son of a bitch!"
Yep.
You know,
And then
he's
you put him with
he's
Shieldbreaker, and you put him with Garrett, you put him with Nightiel, and you put him with Little Baddie. Um, Little Baddie is not the greatest, but she can take a lot of damage, and like you're saying,
yeah,
and she has that cheat death, and it happens to me every time. I trigger the cheat death,
mm-hmm,
and she has that much shield, and that next turn he gets that full heal. He almost seems to be there at the right moments all the time. Nothing more aggravating than that.
mm-hmm,
So you're stuck behind that, and then you're getting, assaulted by Nightiel and Soleus is, assisting constantly, and
mm-hmm.
Nightiel, she can go through shield, right, and take away your health.
Yep,
So
yeah,
when you're being assisted by that, you get they counter attack, and then that's just the 3 I mentioned. Then you put Garrett and Shieldbreaker. We just mentioned Shieldbreaker, what he can do. You got all that going on. You got Garrett blinding you, and if you just try to mirror match that, it's not always going to go your way, and it's almost
no,
the higher powered human team is always going to win because
yeah. And
they're just that good. They're crazy.
and what's sneaky about him too is the leadership. He gives that counter chance to humans. Little Baddie has a turn meter decrease on her basic. If you fight a Garrett and you're going after Garrett and he has a counter chance on, but he has whatever arrow he has, that's what he's going to apply to you on his counter, and he's not going to lose it. So if he has that dispel and you start going after him and he's countering you, he can come back and dispel your tank. It's so sneaky good.
Yeah.
So sneaky good. You know, and then he just his kit's so good. He's so good. His passive his passive is good. You know, he gets all allied defenders, they get the armor increase. Human healers and rogues get cheat death for 3 turns. I mean, this is at tier 7, but still. Mages and rangers get the potency. But then if Nightingale's on the battlefield, she gets all of them.
Yep.
That's insane.
And I don't think...
I mean, just...
A lot of people try to make Nightingale teams, but if you want the ultimate Soleus team, Nightingale has to be involved.
Yeah. And Nightingale's got some of that trickery. People have been using her for that trickery because she has a pretty... Since they kind of tweaked her lead. But yeah, you wanna maximize your Soleus team. He calls her in to assist all the time, and you're just like, oh no.
And he's easily accessible right from the get-go. You can get him as your first legendary pretty short. You know, as long as you focus on his legendary event, you can get him pretty quickly, and he'll help you through all the campaigns early on, and you'll still use him to this day. So you could gear 12 him early.
He's a hard carry.
Be happy, you know what I mean? You'll always be using him no matter what.
You won't regret a cent of what you put into him. Gear wise, scroll wise, you can put it in any ability. He's great.
I agree. All right, moving on. All right, so number 6, we have the legend, Thelaine. Thelaine has been meta for as long as I can remember. She used to be in the arena ranks 1 through 1,000. Like, if you had Thelaine, that was your arena. If you could use her in tournament, you were using her leadership. She was always in the lead. You saw her everywhere. Not so much anymore, but she's still one of the best characters. She's amazing.
I love me some Thelaine. Like, and me and you were talking off camera. I don't really particularly care about her damage. I just want those debuffs. You know, I want that ability block. I want that buff immunity. I want that heal block. So I just build mine for speed and potency. And I get the days on the basic. But I found myself, like you said, like when we were sharing my rankings, I still had her way higher. And you're like, well, she's fallen off. I'm like, you know what she has? I mean, she's not what she once was with some of these newer characters coming out. But the fact that she has almost the best debuffs in the game in her kit is just phenomenal. I mean, a mass ability block is crippling.
I agree.
Unless you're fighting Air Shield Breaker.
And it's similar to a mass blind or something. You're losing a turn, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I agree. Make her as fast as you can, as long as you're landing those ability blocks before anyone can get debuff immunity or anything up. Once that happens, it's almost a game over. Another thing is she's been nerfed since quite a while ago, but so that affected her too. But she's still a badass. You know what I mean? She's amazing, and that AOE move is crazy. And her second move hits pretty hard. And what else does it do? It gives healing block and the buff immunity.
Heal block and buff immunity. Yeah,
and that's a pretty big move too. So
I mean, and everything's 2 turns. Even her basic days for 2 turns. Heal block and buff immunity 2 turns. Ability block's only 1, but still, I mean, that's crazy.
Oh yeah, and the days on a basic, So her kit overall is pretty crazy. So you want to make her as fast as you can, and she consistently, for the most part, will counter buff demons in battlegrounds. So that alone's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty good team.
I still think she has a place in the top 10 for sure. Even as not as a lead. I mean, you put her in the lead, that's when she gets the cooldowns can be reduced and things like that, and that's huge. And when they did nerf her on that, it was kind of ridiculous because you could just spam that third ability constantly.
Yeah, I wasn't truly mad about that because I said...
No, I wasn't either.
Back then I was like, I'm honestly just kind of tired of seeing her everywhere. It's just Thelaine versus Thelaine everywhere. And so I was kind of tired of it. But, you know, they didn't completely erase her or make her irrelevant, you know. So she's still got a place in there and she's still up in the top. And I agree with you. I didn't put her on my list But Zeri we kind of made our points, and it made a lot of sense. I was like, yeah, she still deserves, especially who I had on there. I was
Yeah,
like, she's definitely better than the person I had that was on there that we took off. So
yeah, but see, you swayed me the opposite direction. I was like, well, I think I'd rather have this person nowadays than that. So I mean, it was a good compromise of where we met her, and when you get the chance to unlock her, especially like if you don't have her yet, at that level, she's going to be devastating.
oh man, yeah.
You know, now that you can get her, if you want her to be your first legendary, she can be. I mean, that's crazy.
All right, guys. So that's Delane. One of the best leaders in the game. Has a lot of amazing kit, a lot of cool stuff going on with her. Can't go wrong getting her. Pretty much get her as soon as you can because she will make your roster better in battlegrounds, arena, whatever you want to go for.
For
So.
sure.
All right, number 5, we have Zera. Zeri, what do you think about Zera, my man?
I think she is the best leadership in the game, and it's not for what she does to her team members; it's what she does to the opposing team. Completely screws up the AI. She makes going through campaign or anything like that just an absolute cakewalk because they screw everything up. They're always going to apply their buffs when they can't. And she brings a lot of utility. She has a lot of good moves. I mean, her third ability is a triple hitter, does decent damage. You can get through cheat death with that third ability. She has her healing block, and then buff immunity if they're bleeding. She puts bleeding on in her basic, so she fits into... Or no, not bleeding on her basic. I think it's a damage increase. She fits into the game well. I mean, she's a very good leader. And you don't have to put the orcs with her to get those debuffs. You know, I mean, you can put one of each faction behind her if you want to, and still screw everything up. So she carries you. You know, she is kind of like your how do I say it? Like a beginning kind of leader. You know, it lets you learn and test around with comps because you're like, oh, I got a Zera lead. I don't got to worry about the AI coming in and nuking me right away. You know.
Yep, and it helps if someone taunts very quickly in the first or second turn. That can help prevent that potentially, that taunt, which can be huge.
I mean, you going against the Tromgar early in the game, he always taunts on his first turn. Pride, it screws them up because they always try to get their buffs out. Like Boris will try to get off his crit damage, crit chance buffs.
Yep. Nullifies
that. Eric Shieldbreaker will always use his Rousing Cry as first ability. The only problem with him is he's so slow and the team's probably already gone, but at least it'll stop putting it on him. You know, so she's a hard counter to a lot of people in this game.
Yep, I agree, man. And pretty much what I was thinking how the lane was before is how Zera is now. She's everywhere. Like, if you can use her as your leader, you're probably going to use her as your leader. She is a great plug-and-play leader.
Yeah, and she can make those bad orcs somewhat decent. You know what I mean? Because it gives you the opportunity to build the squad up before they're slaughtered. You have a chance. So she does a lot of things to help out your account.
She's also really good with the pigs. Have you messed with that much?
No, I seen it though, and you know, based on some conversations I was having today with Warghoul and stuff like that, he was telling me all about it. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, so what I do in Battlegrounds is I do like a Zera pig team, and that saves me like a, B, C, like Rantha Tromgar team. That's a second Orcs team that I use. So it just gives you one more comp that might be able to help you clean up those weaker teams.
Yeah, and I think it's because, and I haven't done it, but this is just me speculating, is because, like I just said, it gives you time to let that team amp up. The pigs need all those buffs. They got to share all those buffs. They got to buff themselves.
Yeah.
Once they get that, forget it.
Yep.
And Zera gives them the opportunity to get that. Gives them the chance to get buffed up and not get stuck behind a tank because they don't have a Dispeller, Yep. It gives them that opportunity.
I agree, man. I agree. All right, number 4, we got the rocker, the legend, Hard Orc. I about said more Doom. Hard Orc.
Fair enough.
Yes, this guy's in a lot of meta teams too. You'll find in your arena. He has a really good AOE. He puts out mass ability blocks. He has a great third ability here. What does he do? He does cheat death, regeneration, damage increase. He gives it all to, and gives turn meter to himself.
Mm-hmm.
Just a badass. And his basic applies bleeding too, so has all kinds of good stuff.
Yep.
He's a good partner with Saboteur. You put Saboteur with him, and they were a pretty good duo too. So what
Mm-hmm.
else do you have to say about
Sure.
that?
Hard Orc, man, I remember when we first had Hard Orc, he was kind of like a meme character. Like he was really good for getting Soleus, and then after that, people are like, "What am I doing with this guy?"
Yep, I did the
But
same thing. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, the T7 on his power solo with an 80% chance to inflict that ability block reduces the initial cooldown by 1. That is just massive. Um,
Yep.
his kit when they kind of reworked it is just really, really solid. And the fact of the matter is, his T7 on his passive, he removes 1 debuff from each ally at the start of the turn. That's huge. And yes, it's only 1, but you don't waste a move to do it. Now, if you were wasting a move in your turn order rotation to clear 1 debuff, that would suck.
But
But the
yeah.
fact that he's passively doing it is
Yeah.
huge.
Yep.
That's what really makes him good. And I've been playing around with Hard Orc on the test server at Gear 13 with the tier 7s and the tier 8, and it is insane. His tier 8 on his Devil's Horns is unbelievable.
Yeah.
He is going constantly.
Yeah.
So,
it might be one of the first ones I put on there because he's such a beast, anyways.
yeah,
And
because he gives it to all allies, so you can pair him with more Doom. Because I hate putting him with more Doom now because he can only buff. You know, if more Doom drops his imps there, and you get all that cheat death on an imp, you're like, well, that sucks.
yep.
But now it doesn't matter. You just pop that thing and it gives him 80% turn meter back
Yep.
on T8. And the faster he goes is the more dispelling. So it's tough. And he's almost 4K physical damage at Gear 13. So that power solo hits like a truck, and it's an AoE. So he's just a really, really good character. And he's plug and play. You can put him anywhere. Put him in a bleed comp. You needed a speller, put him in the team, because passively he'll do it. So I
Yeah.
mean,
That's
and then that
huge.
ability block, I think he's kind of like taking the role of Thelaine with that ability block now.
I agree.
And you're getting a little bit more out of him because he can passively dispel.
Yep.
So
And you don't
he's
have to,
really good. Little squishy, but
and you don't have to put him in the leader slot. You'll usually have him with Zera, and you're getting some kind of orc synergy there. So
yeah, because I mean, you put him with Zera, they have that ability. They have the buff immunity, right? So the first move they waste all their moves, and then by the time they get to go again, you've hit them with the power solo,
yeah,
and now their ability blocked out.
that's another round you're not doing anything. So yep.
Exactly. I mean, it's a really, really solid. He's a solid kit, and they made some really good changes to him
I
to
agree.
make him way more viable.
I agree. All right, that is Hard Orc. Next up, number 3, we have the man, the Demon King, I guess he is, Buff. Buff, we all
He
have
has
a crazy history with Buff, don't we, Zary?
Yes, yeah. That buff brought me and you together.
Yes, he
So
did.
let's just say that.
So he'll always be in our hearts. I've had a lot of ups and downs with him, as well as others. What's funny is I could go on all day about what happened, but long story short, wailed on him, and it took me 7 days, last couple hours, and I unlocked him with the inferior pride team. So that was before any nerfs were done or anything like that. It was before any
Yeah.
Wukongs were out or anything. Now people I hear are just beating it in the first couple tries. So it's not even a problem anymore. But back in the day, this guy was the man you wanted. Even before he was out, you
Hmm.
wanted this guy. He was a legend. Like, this was the guy.
Yep.
Unfortunately, after you got
Yeah, he
him,
was.
they nerfed him pretty quickly because he was so good. That's like the one nerf I was kind of sad about because I expected this guy to be reigning supreme over everyone, and I was okay
Yeah.
with that. But with that being
That was
said,
before you were in the test server chat, because we were saying in the test server chat before they even launched him, like, you got to do something with this guy. He's gonna break the game,
yeah, it
and he
was.
did.
Yeah, he did, and they quickly nerfed him real quick. And
Yeah.
but even with that being said, crazy good guy. You don't even have to have him in the lead.
Yeah.
He's the best demon leader you can get, and even as a leader, he's top 3 leader, maybe not, but that team itself, a buff team, is probably top 3 or 4. But I see him a lot used behind his Zera lead in the meta, in the arena, for this move here, the tactical advantage, and it swaps turn meter with people. And there's 1,000 different strategies you can do to use this one move, but it's very, very helpful to get what you want done at a certain point. You know, it gives you health back, it takes away debuffs, and it completely swaps. It gives someone 100% turn meter. So that's a big deal. And, you know, his second move, where he just gives random allies a crazy amount of debuffs. It's just going to spread all over. Sometimes it's going to help you out better than other times. And you also gain buffs, right?
Yeah.
You gain 8 buffs.
Yeah, you give out 8 buffs, and you give out 8 debuffs.
Yes.
And there's good debuffs in there. Ability block, blindness, heal block, buff immunity. And there's really good debuffs in there.
And then
and one of my favorite buffs that he gives out is counterattack. It's awesome.
Yep, and he increases demons. If he's in the leadership, he gives 30 speed to demons. His basic removes turn meter. He has a decent amount of dodge in him, where he's kind of elusive. You know, he looks like somebody that would be like that. And so, and you know, he just looks awesome.
And then he's got turn meter removal on his basic. I mean, his basic's doing 30% turn meter removal.
Yep,
that's big.
The only time that sucks is if you're stuck behind a tank, because then you're just removing turn meter from a tank. But other than that, it's pretty big.
Yep.
But yeah, just a cool guy. And I like how he's just, because in my mind, he's not the devil. He's just a regular demon, but he just kind of reminds me of the devil himself. You know, he has the guitar on his back and everything else. Like
devil went down to Georgia, man.
Yeah, that's one of the things of like selling your soul to the devil for some music, some Robert Johnson shit. So.
And you got, I mean, all of his move kit, he's 6.66% pretty much everywhere in his move kit.
Yep. Yeah. Someone else has that in another. Is it Shadar or somebody?
I can't. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And what I really like about his tactical advantage, that you kind of didn't mention, but is huge, is you gain a potency increase. So you swap turn meter with somebody who's just about to go. They go, then you go again, and you throw your dice throw because his potency's low. He gives himself a potency increase. It's awesome. It's a well-built kit.
Like I said, he would be better if it wasn't for nerfs and everything else, but he's still a top 5 character, as you guys see. So
I think he is, yeah.
And I mean, he's still in the meta. He's still countered some really good teams, and so yeah. Yep. Anything else you want to say, man?
Just be careful, because a lot of people unlock him thinking they can use him as clans, and he's order. He's an order character.
Yeah, I didn't realize half the demons were order. He's not a good guy. He looks like someone who's in the clans. So what's the point behind that? Do you know?
Yeah, a lot of people were like, when he first came out, they're like, yes, I can get through Clash of Clans or whatever the hell it was. I'm like, no, you can't. They're like, why? I'm like, because he's an order. You won't really use him. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah.
All right, guys, that's buff. All right, number 2. My still favorite character in the whole entire game, Mordoom. This guy is crazy. Zeri, take it away, my friend.
I love this guy. I mean, he's just so good. Even me and you were kind of talking. When he first came out, his imps were considered demons. So you put him and buff together, and game was over at that point.
Yep.
So they made his imps and changed up his wording. But I mean, he's still so good. Those imps can be ungodly annoying. They piss me off sometimes, because you're just about to kill somebody because you don't think they have a healer, because you forget about that imp that's hidden behind the tank, and then there he is. His Rock's Curse is just absolutely devastating. Number 1, it does huge damage, and then you're getting, what is it? Armor decrease, tenacity,
slow,
damage decrease, slow. I forgot about slow. Ability block, potency decrease too, right?
Yep. Nice, man. You got them all. Nice.
Yeah. And it's for 2 turns, or is it 3 turns?
I want to say it's 3. Yeah, it's 3.
3 turns. All of that for 3 turns with pretty much no dispellers in the game. Insane. Then you think you're like, all right, I got this guy locked up because I got ability block on him. He can't use his Rock's Curse. Well, that sucks because now he's stripping taunts off your tank because he dispels on his basic. And it's two debuffs or 2 buffs. I mean, that's massive. He can take away cheat death. He's just so good. His kit is built so well. Like that's the one thing I think they're really getting good at is building comprehensive kits to kind of plug and play people. And he stands the test of time with that because you can put him anywhere.
I agree. I mean, their character design and kit design hasn't decreased. Every time I'm like, okay, well they can't top this character, and they do. And even if they don't, it's not any worse. I'm not like disappointed. I'm always like, wow, okay, I can't wait to play this guy. It's never anything underwhelming ever. So they're hitting that out of the park each and every time, and that's something I've never complained about is a character coming out.
The only thing I really wish they'd do to him is I wish they'd give him a little more synergy with orcs themselves. Like his passive to me is a little very underwhelming, where he gets
10%
15
tenacity.
for imps. Oh, okay, 10.
It says 10% tenacity and 10% potency for each living imp.
Yeah. And then the other caveat in there is demons, not orcs. Like I wish that would be demons. That demon caveat would be orcs because that demon one was huge in the early part of the game.
And that makes no sense.
But now that his imps aren't demons, they got to. I wish they'd switch that over to the orcs, or if that was his T7, they'd add the orcs in there with him. But to me, that's the only thing that I really can bitch about with Mordoon because he's just so good.
Completely agree, man. His kit's amazing, and like you said, that Rock's Curse, his third ability is nuts. It puts somebody out of it puts somebody out of the battle for 3 turns. Like if you want to put someone out of the way so you can work on someone else, if you can hit that guy with the Rock's Curse, you don't have to worry about him. 3 turns is eternity in this game. Like that's a long time for them to be behind that. So that alone is one of the best moves in the game, and every time I land it and to see all those debuffs go, it's one of the most satisfying things in the game. And he's been like my top 2-3 every time we make these lists. Every time. And I will say I'm seeing him less in Arena. He is falling back to me, I'm noticing. And I even noticed that I'm not using him as much. Still, top 3, he deserves where he's at. These imps, you get, 5, 6 of these things out there. They don't put out a lot of damage, but they just keep going. More about the health. Like
I've actually lost the fight to them. I thought I had everybody down but like 6 imps, and I had 2 guys left, and I lost. Because I couldn't heal myself, and they just kept healing. They had like 5 healers and 1 damage dealer, and they just kept healing. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, and see, I want as many green ones as I can get, not so much the red ones. And the red ones aren't bad.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But the green ones heal enough where you're like, it's making a difference. They can almost be fill in as a healer for your team if you get enough out there, and that's all RNG. But you get 5 or 6 out there, it's especially the green ones, it's done. And like you said, the removing 2 buffs on a basic, he seems to go pretty quickly for me. I only have him at 242 speed, but he still seems to take a lot of turns. I'm putting those imps out pretty quickly, and so his cooldown for those is 4 out of 4. But it seems like to me that I'm putting out them faster than that. So he just plays perfectly. You can be a beginner and almost get him down pretty quickly. And this is like Soleus. I always recommend going for Soleus and then this guy. When you have Soleus unlocked and then you get this guy unlocked, the campaigns are done. Like you have this guy, you don't even have to worry about the demon campaigns or anything. If you're having problems, get this guy unlocked. Take him to it doesn't even have to be gear 11, but you're going to notice you're just shooting through these. You know what I mean? And I'm excited to get to that point in my free-to-play series because it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, guys. Finally, last but not least, number 1 is Garrett. I mean, how could you not put him at number 1 with the hair? I mean, all you gotta do is see his hair, and that's number 1 hair right there. Anyways, we've pretty much talked about him completely after talking about Shieldbreaker and Soleus and other people, but This guy he's just the biggest pain in the butt in the game. If he lands that blinds, if he lands daze or slow or even his anti-magic arrow. That anti-magic arrow, we've talked about this a lot. Isn't it the only mass dispel in the game where it dispels everybody?
Yeah, I believe so.
I believe so too.
Ember used to be able to, and so did Slinger, but they got rid of those.
Yeah, so he's the only one, and it's RNG. So that kind of sucks, but it would be game breaking if he could just do it every time. But this anti-magic bullet right here. And so he can do it all, but sometimes it comes down to RNG, you know. So, some matches he might be completely OP and just turn the tide of the battle. Sometimes you'll get bad RNG, and he'll still be a factor, but you know, he has a lot of RNG in his kit. But that blind, these big arrows that you can do all kinds of different stuff, dazes and slows, and his basics not that great. But what else you got to add to that, man?
He's probably the best plug and play character in the game because he can fit in any comp. You're building a burn team, it's RNG dependent, but he can burn. If you're building a poison team, he can mass poison. He fits into any team, and like you said, you get stuck behind him. There's times where you're like, oh, I'm gonna focus on him first. Well, but then the tank gets up their taunt, and now you're stuck there. And I always seem to get the anti-mage arrow round 1 when you don't need it. And I'm like, what the hell?
Me too. I hate that.
You know why the opponent's getting it 4 or 5 times, but it is RNG, and you know he is RNG. But when you get the anti-mage arrow, you just strip everybody. Like, I love when Eric Shieldbreaker pops his rousing cry, and then you just come through and wipe it all down.
That's very satisfying too. I agree.
It is. Or you're fighting a pride team, and Salvador gets his taunt and steel shell, and you're just like, nope, boom. Gone. Yep. He's one of the most satisfying characters, and the fact that his basic, like we talked about before, uses that bolt effect on a counter and he doesn't lose it, so good. It's so sneaky good, people don't realize how good it is.
Yep.
You know, you get that anti-mage arrow and he's just countering. He clears everything off and you just keep moving. I love Garrett. When he came out, I was in love with him. I think he's just super good.
And on top of that, I mean, he's not squishy. Most characters like this that are OP, like really, really good, are squishy as hell. And it's becoming kind of a trend as you see them releasing things. Telios, you know, he's really good, but he's kind of squishy. I don't know. You see a trend, and I think that's because they want us to start to get the full effect of these characters. I think they want us to take them up to gear 12 and 13 before you start seeing them to their full potential. So I think that's what they're trying to do. But this guy, from the get-go, you don't have to put health or armor or anything just to keep him alive. He stays alive.
You want to know his health and shield combination at gear 13?
I do. I really do. I bet it's crazy.
92,900.
Oh my god, that's tank level.
Yeah, and that's unruined.
What?
I just pulled up my spreadsheet.
What is tank
92,966.
Imagine him, a tank Garrett. Oh man.
Yeah, that's insane. His crit chance takes a big jump too. He goes up to almost 50% crit. Yeah, his damage stays relatively low. His damage doesn't take a big jump, but yeah. His potency also is almost... His potency goes up to 56%. I just pulled it up. 56% potency. So you can rune him completely different if you get him gear 13. Because you put that... If you put like a 5-dot... What is it? Northwestern rune? It's like almost 30 potency. You're going to be at like 98% or 86%. And then just a little bit you pick up from here and there. You can get rid of that potency set on him. And you can put in a crit chance set and, you know, something else more beneficial. So you can completely change the way you rune him.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
Alright, guys. That's my top 10. Well, that's our top 10. I hope you guys liked it. If you guys agree, disagree, always let us know. You know, it's always a friendly conversation around here. But yeah, let us know what you thought. Zeri, what do you got anything to say before we get off here?
No, man, just thanks for having me on. This was a blast. I always love doing this stuff with you, so it's just fun talking about it.
Always, man. Always. You know I love you. You're my brother.
Same.
We gotta get doing more of these, man.
Yes, we do.
All right, guys. With that being said, we love you. We always appreciate you guys showing love, support for us, and as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.